On this episode of the Oklahoma Breakdown with Ikard and Lehman, presented by Riverwind Casino, we discuss the SEC media preseason poll and the preseason All SEC teams. We also talk about OU's partnership with Jake Rosenberg. And of course, we give you our winners and losers of the weekend. Please download and subscribe to the podcast, rate it 5 stars, and write us a good review. Follow the show on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Just search Oklahoma Breakdown on any of those, and you'll find us. All right, our man Michael Hosty will kick this thing off. It's time for the Oklahoma Breakdown. It's a beautiful Sunday, July 21st, and you're listening to the Oklahoma Breakdown with Ikard and Lehman, presented by Riverwind Casino. Riverwind is Oklahoma City's premier casino experience, and there are so many reasons why Riverwind is consistently voted OKC's #1 casino, but it all starts with their amazing variety of gaming thrills and excitement. Riverwind's beautiful award-winning environment plays host to more than 2,800 of the latest electronic games, with a huge selection of table games, including blackjack, match roulette, and Teddy's favorite, craps. No matter what your game, Riverwind has it in spades and hearts. And to learn more about their gaming promotions and entertainment options in the month of July, all you got to do is visit riverwind.com. Riverwind Casino, simply the best. Ted Lehman, how we doing? We starting? I think we got to start with our top 3 list of who the Democrats should replace Joe Biden with. Is that what you want to?
Yeah, let's just dive right
I,
into the
I
deep
think
end.
I think the people want to hear your thoughts. No, we're gonna start with OU football stuff as we always do. Even though, yeah, big news in the country on Sunday. But start with the SEC media preseason poll, ladies and gentlemen. We warned you, Sooner Nation. We warned you. Sooners voted 8 in the SEC media preseason poll. Georgia 1, Texas 2, Alabama 3, Ole Miss 4, LSU 5, Missouri 6, Tennessee 7, Sooners at 8, A&M at 9, Auburn at 10, Kentucky at 11, Florida at 12, South Carolina at 13, Arkansas at 14, Mississippi State at 15, and Vanderbilt bringing it up the rear at 16. Your initial thoughts, Ted?
I think it's about what I expected. Um, it's it's daunting looking at it, but I still believe firmly that you've got Georgia at 1. I would still put Alabama at 2, and then I believe Texas, Ole Miss, LSU, Missouri, Tennessee, Oklahoma, A&M to less of a degree, but I think all of those teams are kind of totally interchangeable. Um,
I I was not surprised at all. This is what we were anticipating, right? We talked about it on here
mhm.
that you should prepare for OU to be voted 7th or 8th. But I think it's a little more palatable if you just kind of look at it in tiers.
Yeah, not like crying tears, like in tears of the
T
of the
I
team.
E R S, tiers. Don't look at the poll while you're weeping, please. But I really kind of view Georgia alone on the top
I do
tier
too.
because of Saban retiring and DeBoer taking over, and we really don't know what it looks like. There's no doubt they got an incredibly talented team. He's won everywhere he's been, but there's just that little uncertainty there. I feel like I know exactly what Georgia is going to be. And that's a really, really, really good football team. So I kind of view them on their own tier. And I think OU's right there on the second tier
Hmm.
with Bama and Texas and Ole Miss and LSU and Missouri and Tennessee. Like that's how I view it. Maybe even A&M belongs in that conversation, right? With the coaching change and all the talent they still have on that roster. But it is pretty wild to look at the preseason poll and see that 8 next to Oklahoma's name. I don't know the last time we felt that feeling. Have we ever felt that feeling in our lifetime, Ted?
No, no, never.
Not even
I
the
mean,
dark days of the 90s did we feel this feeling.
maybe as far as like I've been covering the team, maybe the worst we've been picked is I don't even remember being picked third. So it is a little jarring, but it's also funny to see like we're right there at that halfway point, and essentially our schedule is all above us, except
That
for South
is,
Carolina and obviously Georgia at number one. We don't play them, but we play the other six games. There are all the teams right above us.
and I think that's why you see OU at 8, because they've got 6 games against teams that everyone thinks is going to be really, really good. It's a great representation, and we've talked about it a lot, but now seeing the preseason poll, it's another reminder of how difficult this year's schedule is. And really, it's another reminder of how difficult next season's schedule is going to be when this thing just flips. But I'm going to put the optimism hat on. I'm going to do it. This is, while it looks daunting and you're playing 6 games against some really good teams that a lot of people think are going to be better than you, it's an awesome opportunity for Oklahoma football. You wanted to be in the SEC. You want to be in the best conference in all of college football. You're here, and now you have every opportunity to show that not only that you belong, but that you're here to make some noise and to compete at the highest level. You've got these 6 opportunities against these teams, and the other 2 aren't just going to be, layups, but you've got 6 opportunities to show that these people got it wrong and that Oklahoma football is going to be a massive, massive factor in the picture of the SEC. So, what else can you ask for as a player, as a coach? Like, how much more motivation do you need? You've got all of these games against all of these teams that all of these people think are better than you. And they're telling you straight up with how they voted, like, hey, man, we kind of don't think you belong here yet. And what else could you ask for other than the opportunity to go prove those people that they're idiots?
Yeah. And the beauty of it is they've picked all those teams and essentially saying they're better than you. And I don't think any of them are. I think you're all starting off from a very similar spot. Um, Tennessee's got a new quarterback. I mean, everyone loses people and graduates. I mean, Texas graduated or lost, basically their entire skill position group, their 2 best defensive tackles. Alabama lost, several players plus the greatest college football coach of all time. Same thing. Ole Miss lost guys. They've replaced them just like everyone else has. LSU lost a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback. Missouri lost the SEC's leading rusher. Tennessee has a new quarterback like Oklahoma does. It's not like, we've got issues and we've got to replace guys on the offensive line. We got a new quarterback. It's not like most of the other teams in this conference aren't going through the same situation where they're replacing talent. They're cycling guys through. They're digging through the transfer portal to try and find guys that can contribute right away. A young quarterback that highly recruited, has all the potential in the world, but has to go out and prove it. I mean, everyone on this list has the same type of situations that they're battling through. So I think that I don't think there's any game on our schedule that we can't win. As we sit here today, we'll see how healthy we are and kind of how the season has unfolded whenever you actually get to those individual games. But as you look at it right now, our problems aren't any worse than any of the other problems that some of these teams or all of the teams that we have to play this year are going through.
Yeah. You just look at the poll. OU's got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10, and 13. Pretty, I mean, it's tough. I mean, it just is what it is. And I think one of the things that is, I don't know, frustrating is the word, but OU gets that coming into the league, and Texas they get Georgia. They've got Georgia. But you look at the rest of the schedule, they've got 8, 9, 11, 12, 14, 15, and 16.
Mm-hmm.
It feels unbalanced, but
It is.
it is unbalanced. Just when you look at it, if you're just looking at the poll and you're looking at the two schedules for the two new members, you go, how the hell did that happen? But I kind of love it for OU.
Oh yeah.
We carry ourselves a certain way, right? With all the success that Oklahoma football has had, over the last several decades. And might as well just see what we got. Might as well see what we're made of right away. Might as well just get thrown into the fire and see what happens. I'm getting to the point where I am not I've never been mad about the schedule. I can understand why it's frustrating for a lot of people when you compare it to what Texas has got. But, you know, let's see where the program is at. If some flaws are going to get exposed, then let them get exposed and let them get addressed. So that's kind of how I'm viewing it. But at least you have the opportunity to compete at the highest level in the best conference in all of college football. I mean, that's what you signed up for, and we're going to see how it goes.
Yep. And what I love is you don't have to leave anything up to interpretation. While Texas is beating or playing Arkansas, Mississippi State, and Vanderbilt, we're going to be playing, Tennessee, Ole Miss, Missouri, Alabama, and we didn't come in to try and hope for a good schedule to where we can pick off the low hanging fruit. That's not what this fan base wanted. I don't think it's what this football team wants. We want to be challenged against the best, and there is no glory in beating the bottom feeders. Right? We will know very quickly where we stand, and so will the rest of the country. I think we have a very rare opportunity that the University of Oklahoma, frankly, doesn't get very often, to be not picked very well, very high, and not forgotten about. I mean, that's not necessarily where we're at here, but we're not really being talked about to be in the mix a whole lot this year. And that's a really good place to be, especially when you have what I believe is a pretty daggum good football team. And if you're able to kind of fly under the radar and be dismissed, it actually puts you in a really good spot.
Is there anything on the SEC preseason poll that really surprised you? Was anyone higher than you thought that they would be, lower than you thought that they would be?
Not really. I mean, I think it all really shaped up about how I expected, honestly. Um,
I
you know, I,
was the
I
only
would
thing that
say that, yeah, go ahead.
like stood out to me is I thought Missouri was going to be ahead of LSU.
That's what I was about to say is if I would have if I would have picked it, I would pick Missouri quite a bit higher. I think they're going to be a pretty salty football team, and their schedule is like if we're factoring in what like how the schedule is going to affect this, like if this is like a final prediction, I would be shocked if Missouri's not. I mean, maybe like you would even put them at number three because of what their schedule looks like. They've got. I don't know if everyone has ranked them, and I'm sure they have, but I haven't seen it or I don't remember it offhand. They have to have for how good they are. They have to have the easiest schedule in the SEC.
I think anything less than 10-2 for Missouri, for what they have back, I think that would be viewed as, I'm not going to say a failure, but I think 10-2 is kind of the expectation there.
Yeah, I think there's a pretty good chance. Do they play us and do they play Georgia after that? I don't have it pulled up. I thought maybe you were looking at it, but I think there's a pretty good chance that whenever we play each other, they'll either be
They don't
undefeated
play
or
Georgia.
they don't.
No, remember
Okay.
they have about as ideal of a conference schedule as you can have. They've got Vanderbilt, A&M, Auburn, Alabama, OU, South Carolina, Mississippi State, and Arkansas. They get South Carolina in Columbia after they play OU in Columbus. Or excuse me, in Columbia. They get South Carolina in Columbia, South Carolina after they play OU in Columbia, Missouri. There we go.
And they get OU is that the only team that they play in the top 8?
Bama.
Bama. OU and Bama. The only teams they play in the top 8. So
Yeah. So I mean, it just the schedule. It feels like we wonder if it was going to feel like there were imbalances in how teams, how that the type of draw that they got, and it certainly feels that way. But I think LSU is the only one that really surprised me. I thought Florida may be a little lower than 12 with the schedule that they have. My goodness.
oh, brutal.
It's brutal. But LSU, they struggled so mightily on defense a year ago. And I know that they brought in a new coordinator and they've got high expectations and they've got talent, but they got to replace the Heisman Trophy winner at quarterback. They got to replace a couple first rounders at wide receiver. It picked fifth. I guess people think Brian Kelly's going to be able to put it all together. I know that a lot of people like Nussmeier at quarterback, but
Offensive
I don't
line is
know.
one of the big factors for them. It's supposed to have one of the best offensive lines.
Yeah.
That'll carry him far. And they like Nussmeier. There's not hardly anything to go off of with him. Will be a totally different player than what they had a year ago.
He did some nice stuff in the bowl game, but other than that, yeah, you're right. It's just kind of limited stuff. But OU picked eighth. I just you look at it and you just kind of stare at it and go, okay. And it's kind of similar to at least we weren't behind A&M. I think that would have been if it would have been A&M at 8 and OU at 9. I think that would have sent the fan base over the edge. But being eighth, you look at all the teams in front of them. You go, okay, you can't be mad. It's clear there's not a lot of people that are voting in this that believe OU is going to be a very good football team, or at least compared to the other teams in the SEC. I mean, they're telling you
They're not
straight
really
up.
giving them the benefit of the doubt in any of the like kind of same tier matchups.
Right. I would say that the voters are pretty much telling you they think Oklahoma is a third tier football team in the SEC. Maybe even fourth tier in some people's minds. But once again, have every opportunity to prove those people that they are wrong. Now, looking at the preseason all SEC teams, kind of a similar story being told as far as what people think of Oklahoma's football team. You've got 3 guys total for Oklahoma that make the all SEC preseason team. Stutsman and Bowman, Danny Stutsman and Billy Bowman, both named first team defense. And then Deion Burks was named third team preseason all SEC on the offensive side. Just to put it into perspective, Bama's got 16 guys on the 3 preseason all SEC teams. Georgia has 15, including 6 first teamers. Texas has 13. So the 2 teams coming in the league, the 2 new guys, Texas has 13 preseason all SEC guys. Oklahoma's got 3. So once again, Ted, it's pretty obvious. The message is clear. They don't think you're going to be any good. And they don't think your players are very good.
That's right. That's right. it's going to be interesting to see what this looks like um, at the end of the season. You know, the outside of the first team, I think like the second, third, it gets really diluted and it's kind of hard to. I mean, I think whenever you look at the first team, it really tells the biggest story. And, the fact that we got two guys on the preseason All SEC first team on defense it's been a while since we've been able to get guys on the first team. It was difficult to get guys on the first team, Big 12 on defense over the years. And to have two on the preseason All SEC, I think tells a pretty good story about what's going on the defensive side for us. And I clearly think that there's going to be a chance for some other guys to get on that list by the end of the year, especially I would say secondary and wide receiver is going to be a chance. And like I would even say maybe tight end because there's not a whole lot of production coming back at tight end in the SEC. I mean, it's a pretty low bar. If Bauer Sharp was able to get into the offense and maybe have 7, 8 touchdowns, around 500 yards receiving, probably have a pretty good shot at being first team All SEC tight end. But we don't know how he's going to fit into the offense. But there's going to be some opportunity for guys.
If the Sooners are going to have the type of season they want to have in year one in the SEC, we need to look up at the end of the season when the postseason All SEC teams are released and have some line of scrimmage guys on there.
Yeah.
If the guys on the offensive line and defensive line don't play well, 8th is maybe the spot. If things come together on the O-line, things come together on the D-line, those guys play at a high level. With the schedule that OU has, they're going to get recognized for it, and some of those guys will make All SEC. So that's something. If you could fast forward through the season and look at the All SEC teams when they're released after the regular season, if you see OU guys on there, that means things went well. If you don't see them, then not good. But
what all guys you think on the line of scrimmage have a chance?
I'm not upset with the OU not having a single offensive lineman or defensive lineman on there. I would say the guy that maybe has the biggest argument is Ethan Downs, just because when you look at him in the way that he plays, you're not concerned about him holding up to the physicality of this conference. That's kind of his thing. Now, is he a supernatural pass rusher with a bunch of twitch and a bunch of counters? No, that has not been his game up to this point. But at 265 pounds and playing as physically as he does, he is the one guy on the defensive line where you go, okay, yeah, he's going to hold up. We're not worried about him. But all the other guys, like you think Dominic Williams, I'm expecting him to be a big time factor. If OU's defense wants to be elite, he needs to be an All SEC player, Ted. Mm-hmm. He needs to be a first team or second team All SEC type of guy with a bunch of tackles for loss, a bunch of QB pressures, like stuff in the run, knocking centers back. Like that's the type of player he needs to be if this defense is. I think the defense is going to be good. The difference between this defense being good and elite is the type of play they get from that defensive front.
Yeah. And whoever our premier pass rusher is going to be, you get to what, 8, 9 sacks, you'll probably have a chance to be knocking on the door there of first team All SEC. Maybe that's our Mason Thomas. Someone's going to have to come alive there if they want to make it. I expect Stutsman to make it. I expect Bowman to make it. I think there's a chance that Gentry Williams or one of the corners has an opportunity there, and perhaps whoever ends up winning that spot next to Stutsman, if it's one that really locks it down, They're going to have really good opportunity there. And what about the offensive line?
I would think you got to say Fabechi Wiwu just with his measurables, his size. What you got to imagine, he was listed at 339, probably going to play around 330, 335, if I had to guess. Long arms, super thick legs, athletic guy. Like that's the guy that needs to come in and set the tone for the offensive line. I think Branson Hickman's a really good player, but he just does he have the type of elite physical traits that you need to come into the SEC and dominate? I don't know. Probably going to have to see that before I believe it. I think he's going to be rock solid. I think he's going to give them a more consistent level of play at that position than they've had over the last couple of years. But yeah, I would think you look at Wee Woo and just how he's built at the guard position.
Mm-hmm.
He's the type of guy that if your offensive line, if things start rolling, you really gel and start playing at a high level, you would imagine he's the guy that's going to get a lot of recognition.
Yeah. Yep. I agree. I agree. And that would be good. That would be a good sign.
We
I mean,
need that to happen.
You start clipping off some wins. I mean, that's you want to go back to like where we're picked and what our schedule is. You start clicking off wins against those type of teams, names are going to start floating to the top of lists like this really quickly.
I don't know if Auburn being picked 10th makes me feel better or worse about that game.
I know it. It's not in a good spot.
I
Not
don't like it.
luckily we got a bye week before OU Texas, right? I think, but sandwiched between Tennessee, that big emotional home opener, and the Texas game, and it's going to be a tough road environment. But it just goes back to what I've said previously. I don't think anyone on the football team is going to be scanning the preseason where were they picked list whenever they start to look at the film and look at what they did last year against the best teams that they played and how much better they play at home. I can't imagine like going to play Auburn in front of nearly 80,000 crazy fans. It's not the same as going on the road for an 11 a.m. kickoff in Lubbock, or it's not going to have the snooze fest type of feel that has really, I think, been one of those things that I dread as someone covering the team. Like, oh my gosh, this is just not a good spot.
It's going to feel like utter chaos
Yes.
from what everyone has said. Now, it's one thing for people to be talking about this stuff, right? Where they think OU is going to finish, talk about the players and media days. Now you've got it in black and white. If you're Brent Venables and staff and this staff, and if you've got it in black and white. If you're any player in that locker room, you're picked 8th in the preseason poll. You only got 3 guys on the preseason team. Once again, message is pretty clear to everyone involved, coaches, players, staff. At this point in time, people do not think you belong here. People do not think you're ready for the SEC. People think, and they showed you, that you are going to come into the conference and get your ass kicked. Yep. What are you going to do about it? How do you use that? How do you use that as motivation? How does that push you through what is undoubtedly going to be a very, very tough season? But, yeah, people do not believe in Oklahoma. They believe in Texas coming in year one. They do not believe in Oklahoma. And it's up to every guy in that locker room, every person that's a part of that organization, to go out and win football games and prove people wrong. And I think that is one of the reasons that, and I lump myself in this, I think you do too. Like, I am ridiculously excited for this season just to see where Oklahoma stands.
Yeah.
They're throwing, it feels like we're getting everything thrown at us, dude, with this schedule. Let's see where we're at.
That's it. Embrace it. Embrace it. It's what we want. Sink or swim. And I think we'll be absolutely fine. I think it's going to be exciting. Um, as daunting as the schedule is, if you look at it each game individually, you know, as we look at it now, I still feel the same. We'll have an opportunity in every single game. There's no one on our schedule that is levels above us. Maybe you could make an argument that they've got more coming back or whatever, however you want to justify it. But all things like you take everything into account. I feel good with how we sit with all of them.
Get to call your shot. We asked you guys the number one most important thing that happened this week for Oklahoma football. Ted, we got a lot of defensive line recruiting responses, but do you
Yeah.
want to talk about that now or in winners and losers?
Let's hit that in winners and losers.
I figured that may be the case. So this is a funny one. This one comes from at Caleb_540. He says that they just went undefeated in the regular season or are headed to the SEC championship. Oh, that was just my CFB 25 dynasty.
Yeah,
Have you played the game at all? I have
I've
not.
played it.
I have not.
I've played it. It's solid. I like the gameplay a lot. The thing that I like is I feel like the players are faster than like if you play Madden or some of the other earlier games. I like it a lot. I think it's cool. Now I've only played against my son. I haven't done any of the dynasty mode or played anyone online or anything like that. But from the little amount that I've played, I like it.
I've seen a lot of people saying that it's really hard. Like if you're playing on the higher difficulty levels,
Yeah,
it is not an easy game to play.
I'm sure. I'm sure. I'm not. That's above my pay grade. I'm I'm stuck down picking on 10-year-olds.
Yeah, I've got to decide whether or not I'm going to buy a system that I can get the game on. That's it. It's going to be up to my wife. That's honestly where we're at with it. I have not I've not felt like I'm missing out not playing it because there's just so many people posting about it and posting videos. It's like I almost feel like I have played it because I've seen so much of the content, but I'm just a little worried that if I get it, you know me, man, I may get way too into it, and I'm not sure I've got time for that.
Yeah. It's it I, I don't know. It's fun. All I know is uh Georgia just could not stop the run against Liberty last night. I mean, it was just pouring all over them. My son's like, look at why does all the guys on my team all because you got the little star under like the guys that are highly rated. When you're playing against Georgia, the entire team on the other side has stars.
All
Pretty funny.
potential early round draft picks.
That's right.
All right, let's get to a couple of other things, OU football related. But first, get road trip ready this summer with Love's Travel Stops, your leader in highway hospitality. Download the Love's Connect app and unlock a 10-cent per gallon discount on gas and auto diesel at more than 640 Love's locations. Stock up on snacks and drinks with mobile deals and drink club rewards. Forgot something at home? Love's Mobile To Go Zone has you covered from phone chargers to headphones. Love's Travel Stops is your one-stop shop for clean places and friendly faces.
Celebrate with a Schooner All-American Ale, the official craft beer of OU Athletics from Coop Ale Works. Named after the iconic Sooner schooner that races across Owen Field after an OU score, you can join in on the celebration with an ice-cold beer from Coop Ale Works. You can enjoy it at the Palace on the Prairie, at OU Athletic events, at the bar, at the tailgate, and in the comfort of your own home. For more information on Schooner All-American Ale, visit SchoonerAle.com. Must be 21 to purchase. Please drink responsibly. Schooner All-American Ale, the taste of game day.
And we are brought to you by Simple Modern, the Oklahoma-owned drinkware company and number one drinkware sales leader on Amazon and Target. Can you believe it is already time to start thinking about going back to school? Simple Modern has everything you need to get your kiddos ready for the first day. Think of every character your kiddo loves on everything they need, like backpacks, lunch boxes, and water bottles. With just a few clicks at simplemodern.com, you can be back to school ready. And with 10% of all profits going to charity, many right here in Oklahoma, you know you're helping others too. That's a win-win. That's Simple Modern. Check their amazing products out at simplemodern.com. Wednesday, we will record an episode, and I think we're going to go through a task that could be one of the most controversial things we've ever done on this podcast. So let me explain. So our cabana at our house is OU themed. And over the sink in the cabana, there is just a big blank white wall. And the other week I was looking at it going, man, that is a lot of blank white wall. I want to put something cool on that blank white wall. So I came up with an idea that I'm going to get a painting done of great OU football players or moments, like the best players and plays in the history of OU football. Is kind of where my head was at. So, Ted, I started the process, and my initial list had 66 guys on it. You're talking All-Americans, draft picks. You're talking, iconic plays. And I contacted an artist, guy named Carlos Barboza here in Oklahoma City. He said he's down to do it. Guy is incredibly talented, but he wants me to get it down to 25 guys. Now we'll see if he'll accept 30. Maybe we give him 30 and see if he says okay. But on Wednesday's episode, you and I are going to go through the process, and it is going to be a difficult process, bud.
I'm sure it is.
We are going to cut that list from 66 down to 25 to 30. And we are going to, you and I as a team are going to select the 25 to 30, maybe, possibly 30, that make the painting. It is going to be contentious. There's probably going to be some awkward moments.
May lose some friends.
We may lose some friends in the process. But it is, the tough decisions will be made. But I think you are the exact guy I need to help me with this.
Now, a couple of questions, because I'm going to be thinking about this. Are you looking for, like, how is it going to be laid out? Are you looking for like 25 guys, like with their kind of most memorable moment? Are you looking for the 25 like best to pull a picture of the entire like history of the football program?
I don't know.
Okay.
That's the problem. And that's what I'm hoping you will help me with, because there's also a personal component to it. Now, I am not going to be in the painting. I'm not putting myself in the painting. I just want to make that very, very clear. You, however, will be in the painting. Just accept it now, bud.
Okay. I'm not going to fight it. I'm just
2 national awards, 2-time All-American, most famous iconic play in school history. You're on it. You just got to be on it. Deal with it. But like, do I put some of the guys that I played with because it means more to me than maybe a player that was better? I don't know. That's where we're going to talk through it. We're going to talk through it all, and we're going to reach a consensus.
I love it. I'll have a bunch of ideas for you for like, not just who should be on there, like what they should be doing on there.
I'm just going to say that we're going to move on to the conversation about OU's partnership with Jake Rosenberg after I say this. There is a big part of me that is considered leaving off one of the Heisman Trophy winners. Okay, moving on. And that's where I'm like,
I just got to say this. Probably the episode I'm looking forward to the most.
You have a great understanding of OU football history. And I trust you to help me reach a place where I'm pleased with it. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
I'm sure people will not disagree with any of the decisions we make.
Oh my gosh, I can't imagine. I saw you've asked the question. I bet there's 1,000 responses.
It's going to be a fun process. So just know, ladies and gentlemen, that exercise is coming your way on Wednesday's episode.
Love it.
Now on to some revenue sharing talk and, you know, planning for the future for Oklahoma football. So you've got revenue sharing for college athletes on the horizon, and OU is trying to stay ahead of the curve like they always are under Joe Castiglione and Joe Harris's leadership, and they have partnered with former Philadelphia Eagles executive Jake Rosenberg and his consulting firm, which is called the Athlete Group. That this is it's really interesting. And remember, with the House versus NCAA settlement, it was determined that schools that opt in can share, what was it, roughly 20 to $22 million per year with their athletes. So that's where Rosenberg comes in. He's going to help, along with Curtis Lofton in his new role as general manager. He's going to help determine the best way to distribute this money. And people are going to use the term salary cap. It's technically not a salary cap because they're still not employees, but it is, however you want to describe it. There's going to be a pool of money, and Rosenberg, along with Curtis Lofton and several other people, are going to determine the best way to distribute that money. And I feel like OU diving into this now, trying to get out in front of it, and just trying to have a framework in place for when this switch does get flipped, when we do enter the revenue sharing era of college athletics, especially college football, that OU is just going to be ready to go. And I think it's a really, really smart move by Joe Castiglione and the athletic department, and of course, football. So I think it makes all the sense in the world, man.
Yeah, I do too. I do too. I think it's smart. I think, I'm curious to know how much can they do right now, or how much of this is actually like concrete and not the rules are going to change every 4 to 6 months, kind of like it feels like they have over the last 4 or 5 years. Um, I don't know, but I'm glad that they are at least getting out there in front of it and probably developing the model that they want to at least implement to start off and maybe see how that goes. But you're not just going to be winging it. They're going to be set up and ready to handle it. And I don't. So is the 20 to 22 million? It's not like a set distribution. You can distribute that to your players however you see fit. Is that how that
I
works?
that's where it gets interesting. Like, what are the Title IX implications of all that stuff? That's where it feels like there's still some uncertainty to there. I haven't really seen much of an update on it, or at least I haven't sought one out. I feel like we would know if it was going to have to be split equally between men's athletics and women's athletics. I don't know. It makes sense if you just sit down and you think logically. Football is the sport that makes money.
Yeah.
It would make sense that a large portion of that pool of money would go to football players. But I haven't seen anyone come out and say, hey, this is the amount of money we're going to be able to give to our football players. Maybe it's
Right.
happened. Have you seen that? Because I haven't.
No, and I'll just tell you the way I view it, and this may be totally wrong, but it's just kind of how I view it. It's if it's a revenue share, you don't get to share revenue unless you're helping fill the bucket. And I most schools, football is the only revenue producing sport that they have. It pays for everything else. So I mean, the first thought is, well, we should get some of that too. You are getting some of that by your sport existing on campus. Football is already paying for your coaches, your facilities, your travel, all of that. It's all paid for by football at most places. Not to say that there's some basketball programs that produce revenue that are in the black. There's some baseball and soft, like, I don't know the exact breakdown, but most of the places football pays for everything. That's why I would think that only the football players would be in on the revenue share. But right, that's, I don't know. That's just probably a very elementary way of viewing it, but that's how I see it.
This is from last week, and I remember seeing this. An official for the U.S. Department of Education said that Title IX rules will apply to future revenue dollars that schools share with college athletes, but the department declined to offer guidance on how schools should distribute the money between men and women to comply with the broad language of the law.
I
So
don't,
Title
I,
IX is going to have to apply, but they don't tell you how to do it.
well, government at work, but Title IX doesn't have anything to do with revenue distribution. Nothing to do with it.
Equal athletic opportunities, I believe, is the phrase in the law.
Yeah, there's equal opportunity to athletics, and again, that's what football is providing for most schools. There's no, I can't imagine that there would be any court ruling ever that would say that someone from a non-revenue producing sport gets a share of the revenue producing sport. I don't even know where, like, where you would draw the connection between the two. It is, it's weird to me that Title IX is even mentioned there, but I understand why people throw it out there, and it's a roadblock to a lot of things, but it just seems so strange that it would apply to this scenario. I don't know.
If you just use common sense, the revenue share should go to the sports that are making revenue. I don't think would any reasonable person argue with that. The answer may be
No.
yes, but
Well, I don't think so. I will say this though. Um, let, not a school specific or a sport specific, but let's start by saying football is the revenue producer, and the football program pays for the softball program. Now there may be a change to the way that is distributed. Like they may have to carve out some of their budget to go, and they have to divide that with their players. Does that make sense? Like you allocate a big chunk over here for you know, the women's track team, operating budget, coaching salaries, travel expenses, all of that, and then they have to carve out from that piece of the pie review distribution with their players. I mean, I guess I could understand that, but I don't know.
this is the beauty of it. No one knows.
I don't think anyone
No
knows.
one knows how this is going to work. But when you look at what OU's doing, I'm told that Rosenberg will be handling football first and then is going to help when more details of the revenue share model are determined. He's going to help with the other sports. I also was told that his role will be to assist in building a sustainable system around OU strategy when it comes to identifying players, evaluating those players, recruiting those players, and then retaining those players. So they're still working out what the balance between him and Curtis and some of the other members of the staff is going to be, but they'll get those details ironed out, and it is something that we've now heard Brent Venables talk about publicly, but it's something that he is completely on board with.
Yeah.
And Curtis Lofton and Jake Rosenberg are going to work closely together. And their task is to develop a system that works best for OU.
Mm-hmm.
And what works best for OU may not work best at Georgia or at Clemson, but their task is to develop a system, a structure that is ready to roll when revenue sharing becomes a thing that is best for the University of Oklahoma. And
Yeah,
I'm
and
damn glad Curtis Lofton is involved because I know that
I
that
am
guy will
too.
get it right.
I am too. You know, here's the thing. Like, I am thrilled that OU is out in front on this, but I also hope that everyone else is doing this too.
Yeah.
And the reason is, like, if you want to model a way to find the value for players, how to recruit them, how to pay them what they deserve or what they've earned, and be able to retain all those players. It can't be the Wild West everywhere else where people are just throwing stupid money at all kinds of different guys on rosters. You want everyone to kind of be modeled the same to where the values on the players are fairly, like, across different teams and across conferences. The value is reasonable to where, I mean, otherwise you can still have people making outlandish offers to your guys, and you're losing guys to mistakes, frankly, being made by other teams, I guess is what I'm saying.
You basically want to create a reasonable market
Yes.
with the other teams,
Yes.
whether that's the other teams in the SEC or the other teams in the SEC and the Big Ten. Now is there the Power Two or whatever you want to call what the Power Four. But I don't think anyone wants to be out there making stupid decisions. And that's why I do think that a lot of these people are going to not work together, but discuss how they're operating. And I think that already happens at the collective level.
Yeah, it's really fascinating to think about. Like, here's what the NFL doesn't deal with. Like, if we're talking about a market here, there's like a natural arbitrage that is created because, like, say you're buying, like, whatever commodity, you can buy it in the United States and you can sell it somewhere else for a different price, and you can kind of keep that difference there in between. What's interesting about college football is there's kind of that situation where a player, how much is a player worth in the SEC? How much is that same player worth in the Big 12? How much is that same player worth in, a non-power five or something like that? And because, like, it's like a different level of football. So I wonder how that market is going to translate and correlate. It's there's a lot of moving parts, to say the least.
Do you want to go down the road of what the role of collectives is going to be now and how they're going to sweeten all these deals?
It's going to be the cherry on top. I mean, that's the thing is I feel like a lot of people said, okay, NIL's done. We can all kind of have a uniform salary cap. No, it's just going to all be on top of it again.
Basically, just going to turn into a marketing arm where you can say, hey, we can bring you X, Y, and Z deals. You're still going to get your rev share.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to get really, really complicated. I mean, college football has been big business for a long time, but that's why I think OU's, I mean, they are putting a professional structure in place. That's what this is.
Yeah. It's wild though to think about. And I don't know, someone that's been at a university for a long time and has dealt with donations would know. I How much has been diverted from your typical donation route to NIL, and is the hunger going to stay there for a lot of schools to continue to throw a ton of money towards NIL if you don't see any, like, added results from it? I mean, you can only go to people for so long and say, hey, if we get this guy, here's what we need. We get this guy, this is a game changer. And I mean, Ole Miss is a great example. I've said this about Kiffin. Did he create a monster for no reason by asking for all that money? Because now they've thrown 20, $30 million at a bunch of free agent players. If the results are the same, will you ever be able to get that money again? I don't know.
I don't know, but we're most concerned about OU football. And man, I feel really good about this initial plan.
I do too.
And you look at Rosenberg's experience as an NFL executive, you combine that with Curtis Lofton's experience as a stud in college, a big time NFL player. You combine that, and I just feel like when those guys sit down with players, whether it's a recruit, a current player, or someone you're going after in the portal, like I have to imagine players are going to value that combination's opinion. Like if a recruit or whoever comes in and says, my agent says I'm worth X, and a guy that was with the Eagles front office for over 12 years and a guy that was a stud linebacker in the NFL say, no, you're worth Y. They may not be happy about it, but you have to their opinion, I feel like it's going to carry weight
Yeah.
because
Well,
of their
and it's going
credentials, man.
yes, the credentials. And my guess is when you go in and say I should be getting X, I that's probably all the ammunition you're going to be taking in there. And they're going to be sitting down with, well, here are the players that make X currently. Here's the production from those players. Here, like, they're going to be prepared, I guess, and their homework's going to be done, and they're going to have a very well laid out reason to why you're getting what you're going to get or what they think you should get, and then you negotiate from there.
I think that Joe Castiglione and Brent Venables deserve a lot of credit. There's a lot in front of Oklahoma right now as we head into this season. Reminder, picked eighth. So there's a lot going on. And I do think Venables deserves a lot of credit. He's focused on this season. But as far as I know, OU's the first program to do something like this. Or at least as far as I know, the first one who it's been reported on.
Yeah.
Maybe I missed someone else doing it, but I haven't seen anything. But I feel like it shows that Venables, while he's really focused on now and on the 2024 season, he knows that he's got to have a plan. He's got to be prepared, that the program has to be prepared for this system that is constantly changing and evolving. I just think it reflects positively on his leadership to me.
Well, yeah, I agree, and I think we take it for granted sometimes. Right, when if you really just sit down and think about what Brent Venables has had on his plate, he came in as head coach at one of the best programs of all time that has a very high standard. Uh, Whenever a coach left, you've got a conference change upcoming. You've got the whole groundwork, the whole foundation of college football has been changing the entire time. Like this is not the old school job of show up, recruit like crazy, coach football, and hopefully go win a championship. Like you while you're doing all of that, you're switching conferences and you're taking the football program into a whole new era, uncharted territory of how to pay and retain players, the transfer portal. It's there's a lot going on right now.
I feel like the guy just wants to coach some defense.
I know.
He's having
I
to deal
know.
with all this. I
The
mean,
good old days.
being a head coach in college football right now, I know they get paid a ton of money, but I feel like it's never been more complicated.
No, never. It's never been close to as complicated.
Let's finish up with our winners and losers of the weekend. But first,
Oh, you grill masters, listen up. Didier Ranch delivers premium quality beef that is 100% raised in Oklahoma right to your front door. Go to didierranch.com, DIDIER ranch.com to order one of their premium quality beef boxes. Use promo code Oklahoma15 for 15% off your order. Filet, ribeye, New York strip, sirloin, steak burgers. They've got it all, and they ship anywhere in the continental U.S., and Oklahomans can get deliveries in just 1 to 2 days. The only thing better than having a lot of premium beef on the O&D line is having premium beef delivered right to your front door. Didier Ranch. Tradition tastes better.
and head to the garage for hand smashed patties, butter toasted buns, and ice cold beer. It's the perfect spot to watch any big game. With all the garage locations being open to 10 p.m. or later every night, it is the go-to late night spot. Visit eatatthegarage.com to find a location near you and order online from the garage in your neighborhood.
Attention business owners, you need Insurica in your life. Insurica is one of the country's largest insurance brokers with 30 offices throughout Oklahoma, Texas, and the Southwest. Insurica is able to customize programs by accessing the latest information from many insurance carriers. They compare and contrast coverages and offering pricings in order to design a cost-effective, comprehensive program to meet your business's specific needs. If your business partners with Insurica, you'll save huge amounts of money and take back control of your total cost of risk. If your business wants to be best in class, connect with Insurica at insurica.com. That's INSURICA.com.
As always, Ted, kicks off. Who do you have as your winner of the weekend?
OU Cruton landing a big defensive line target. I say big, literally 6'4", 315 pounds. Floyd Boucard out of Florida. Right now, he's not rated maybe as highly as you would expect. 3-star on 247, their composite. I think he's going to get reevaluated at some point and probably be climbing those defensive tackle listings. But big boy, this is a SEC defensive lineman right here, Gabe.
He looks very large. Now, played in Alabama, and I believe he's playing in Miami for his senior season. From Canada, hockey player?
Canada. That's right.
Someone get me the footage of that guy on skates.
Strong ankles.
I want to see it. I want to see that guy on skates. I want to see it real bad, Ted. And I've said this about a couple guys in this recruiting class, which you look at the 24/7 Sports composite, OU still sitting at 8 overall in the recruiting rankings after Boucard's commitment. What am I missing with this? If this guy is actually 6'3" and 315 pounds and moves the way that he does on tape, like they're lining him up on the edge. And he looks really good getting out of his stance. Like, what am I missing? There's not many human beings that are 6'3", 315 that move like this guy. He's a 3-star, not even nationally ranked prospect. How's that possible?
I think that like he's moved around. I think he's from Canada. He's moved to Alabama. I think the fact that he's moved around maybe has it to where he just hasn't been evaluated as much. I mean, I don't know how the other.
He had 27 tackles for loss and 11 sacks as a junior. Alabama is offering him. We beat Alabama for this kid.
That's the way you. I mean, the star rankings. That's a way to get a quick idea of how good the player is. But all you really have to do is go in and see who is offering, what type of players are off, or what type of schools rather are offering them. And if it's like Alabama, LSU, Miami, you're in the right world.
OU, Alabama, USC, Miami.
There you go.
And the 4 teams on. I'm looking at his page right now. They've got him as the 434th ranked national recruit of the 24/7 Sports composite.
Now I know that I think Rivals maybe they have a lot of OU players that are on this list that are ranked really lowly or really low are commitments. They have a lot of those guys that with Like there's a massive discrepancy in the grades. So that tells me that 247 is maybe just a little bit behind on some of the evaluations. And when they redo that, that a lot of these guys will be up higher on the list. But really, not my world. That's just kind of a guess.
With the 5-minute highlight video I watched, if that kid is 6'3", 315, his rating is ridiculous.
Yeah, I agree with you.
But it does feel like another big win for Todd Bates.
Yeah.
You think about what he did with David Stone, Jaden Jackson. You go get Boucard. Alabama wanted him. USC wanted him. I, feels like a big win for Coach Bates.
Yeah. Nope. I agree. I agree. And this is what we talk about. It doesn't happen overnight, but you just keep adding players that are making you deeper, bigger, stronger on the line of scrimmage. It takes some time, but incrementally it happens. And frankly, I've been thrilled with the way that they've done it the last couple of years. And I still think we have a good opportunity to do even more stuff this year on the offensive line in recruiting, or on the line of scrimmages in recruiting.
It's clear Brent Venables and this staff, they're getting the talent they need to compete at the highest level.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at the measurables of these guys, the recruiting classes that they're putting together. It's about to be 3 top 10 classes in a row. It just reminds me the development component is what is going to either make or break Oklahoma football.
Yep.
You got the guys with height and length and speed and all this stuff. Like, you've got them in the program now. And now it's up to Jerry Schmidt and his staff and this coaching staff to mold these guys into great football players.
Yep. I agree. And that's going to tell the biggest part of the story is, like, a lot of these good recruits that these classes we've put together, the development aspect has to take hold. And not that it hasn't. I mean, obviously players are really developing, but you need to kind of close the gap on some of those transfer portal holes that you're having to fill every single year. And if you can do that through recruiting and development, like organic recruiting, then I think you'll be better off.
Who do you have as your loser of the weekend?
I had to go to SEC Media Days for this one. I had to go with Finebaum. Lane Kiffin on his own show, out of nowhere, just fillets him on national television. What are you good at? And he goes right at him about how he was calling for him to get fired and thanked him for helping him get fired at USC. That was wild to watch. It's one of those where you kind of have to turn away. You almost can't watch it as it plays out. It's so difficult.
It was beautifully uncomfortable.
Yes.
And yes. Lane Kiffin, there are some times where he's just the absolute best, man, where he clearly does not give a flip. Yep. And it felt like one of those moments, but maybe my favorite part of that entire thing was he was like, yeah, and you were wrong about Miley Cyrus too. She's great. Everyone loves Miley Cyrus, which is true. Everyone does love Miley Cyrus. It's like, you called me the Miley Cyrus of college football. She's killing it.
Funny, man. I guess maybe that's what he was going after, but I don't know. I thought that was pretty wild and savage at the same time. I'm sitting there thinking, come on, Lane, you've been around this for long enough. If it's not Finebaum, it's going to be someone else. There's that role to fill in sports, like whatever it is, whether it's NFL, college football, NBA. I mean, that's just kind of what this entertainment aspect of the sports entails, coaches, players. I mean, that's just what's going to happen, but it was still fun to watch.
It was very entertaining, and Finebaum actually took it really, really well. He kind of just sat there. And remember, this is on his own show, which is it's a massive deal. And he kind of just sat there and was like, all right, stayed calm. Also pretty impressive. Like
Yeah,
Kiffin was insulting him in a calm manner, but Finebaum just kind of just sat there and take it. It was kind of an admirable way to respond. I don't know. I was
yeah.
kind of impressed with all involved, most notably Miley Cyrus, of course.
I I I do wish he would have, just kind of been like, well, it kind of explains USC where they're at now, taking advice on what they should do at the head coaching position from me. Guy that doesn't know everything, is terrible at his job, apparently. Right? Good at nothing.
The one thing that I haven't seen that I want to see Miley Cyrus's reaction to that clip.
Yes.
I want someone to show it to her and film like I don't know if she'd be confused, if she'd be excited, flattered, upset. I don't know. Maybe
Maybe
all of
all
the
of the
above.
above. Yeah. I'd like to see the commercial break as they go to commercial break. Like what was the interaction like after that?
Do you think Kiffin just turns to Feinbaum and go, "You're welcome"?
Yeah.
Everyone's gonna love that. It just
It's
walks
gonna be
off,
great.
like
It's gonna
knows
be a great
exactly what
clip.
he did.
Pat on the back. That's gonna be a great clip.
Or even better, Feinbaum walks over to him. Thank you.
Yes. That was awesome.
That's good.
Amazing TV.
Social media gold, Lane. Thank you. Thank you so much for sitting down. Who knows? All right, let's get to my winner and loser. But first, what if for the rest of 2024, you got a little bit better every day? When you're learning a new language with Babbel, that's exactly what you're doing. 1 in 5 Americans have learned a new language on their bucket list. If that's you, make 2024 the year you finally check it off the list with Babbel. Here's a special offer for our listeners, and it's only for our listeners. Right now, get up to 60% off your Babbel subscription at babbel.com/Oklahoma. Don't pay hundreds of dollars for private tutors or waste hours on apps that don't really help you speak the language. Just use Babbel. Babbel's quick 10-minute lessons are handcrafted by over 200 language experts to help you start speaking a new language in as little as 3 weeks. I travel a lot. Best believe next place I go, gonna use Babbel. Gonna see what I can learn. Want to be able to talk to the people, Ted. Order at restaurants. Feel cultured. Just feel better
Of
about
course.
myself. Get up to 60% off at babbel.com/Oklahoma. That's BABBEL.com/Oklahoma. Rules and restrictions may apply.
Three things matter in banking: service, service, and service. First Fidelity Bank's commitment to exceptional service is more than a promise, it's their foundation. FFB has been by your side for over a century, and they're honored to be a part of your journey. Banking isn't about where you've been, it's about where you're headed. Open an account at an award-winning bank today at ffb.com. At First Fidelity Bank, we go where you go.
And head to opolisclothing.com for our podcast merchandise and the best OU gear out there. Ted, they got all the disco logo stuff, hats,
Yes.
shirts. They're going quick, people. Get them before they're gone. Go to Opolis Clothing. That's OPOLIS clothing.com and use promo code TED, TED, for 10% off. OpolisClothing.com, promo code TED for 10% off. Buttery soft and 10% off. For my winner of the week, and Xander Schauffele. 2-time major champion, Xander Schauffele. Ted, things could change quick in sports.
Yes, they can.
Schauffele went from the guy that couldn't win a major. He was the guy that, when you're talking about, hey, I'm going to have to see him do it now before I believe it. He goes and wins the PGA Championship, and now goes and wins the Open. 2 out of the last 3. Dude was lights out on Sunday. Bogey free, 65 to take home the Claret Jug, which, by the way, is just an awesome trophy.
It is.
What an awesome
I love whenever
trophy.
they cut to the guy up there that's already working on it, as the winners come through. That's pretty cool.
But yeah, I mean, what a season for Schauffele, top 10 in all 4 majors. And when you look at guys that have done that historically, I think Tiger twice, Tom Watson twice, Jack Nicklaus, Arnold Palmer, Jordan Spieth, Xander Schauffele. Hell of a season. And what a reputation changing year for Xander Schauffele. Went from the guy that he was always so close, never could finish the job, to two-time major champion, arguably the best player in the world.
Yeah, it's wild. And he's one of those guys that whenever you start, like whenever you start naming favorite golfers, he's kind of a guy that doesn't really find his way on that list. Typically, like when you think about, I don't know, when you think about the long drive, you think about DeChambeau. When you think about, some of the iron playing stuff, you think about, Scheffler. I don't know. I guess he is so well rounded. I think is the part of his game that I think is really interesting. That you just, I don't know. He doesn't seem like one of the favorites in any of like the real categories. He's just so well rounded. He's there on everything.
This is my deep analysis. Really good at golf.
Yeah.
He's real good. And
Yep.
I do think, and it's impossible to measure it, the fact that he went and got that first one at the PGA Championship.
Yeah.
You got to imagine it feels completely different in those moments now. Like, hey, I've done it. I can do it. And the effect that has, especially the game of golf, where you're just in a battle with your own mind.
Yeah.
I just wonder if now he's a guy that's just going to rip off, 6 or 8 majors. Because like you're saying, he's got everything you have to win big time tournaments. That's clear now. He's been close so many times, and now it just feels like he has taken that next step and just needed that confidence boost of winning that first one.
Yeah. It's interesting. Like we haven't seen a guy since Tiger Woods that has been able to, I always talk about how it's like it comes in waves. A guy will find it, play really good for maybe an entire season, maybe a season and a half, win a major, 2 majors, and then fade a little bit, and then someone else is on the top of their game, and then they come back at some other point whenever they've all the stars aligned and they've got their swing together. It's been very rare for anyone to just stay on top for any like extended period of time.
Americans swept the majors.
Bam.
I think we've got 9 out of the last 10. 7 in a row. Because this year is Schauffele won 2, Scheffler, and DeChambeau. USA, USA, USA. The only other thing I have about the Open is, did you watch some of that third round?
Yeah, I did.
Oh,
it was brutal.
I've never seen so many guys come off the golf course. I mean, how many guys said that's the hardest 9 holes I've ever played in my entire life? These guys have played a lot of golf, and
they showed Shane Lowry's like scorecard, and I was like, "Oh my god, that is an eventful day." That looks familiar.
Shane Lowry, he straight up said, "Maybe we should have pushed some of the tees forward."
Yeah,
I mean, you never hear a pro say that. It was those guys looked so miserable. The rain and the wind. You had these people going, "Oh, this is the Open, just these conditions." I'm going, "This looks terrible. It looks like it sucks."
Yep. Hey, that's just that's July weather, I guess, right? Brutal.
What's the golf update? What's the game looking like right now
For me
for
personally,
you? For you, how we feeling about it? We got to check in every once in a while.
it's okay.
I'm back to being able to hit the golf ball, so we've made progress.
Yips, they're gone.
The yips are gone. The hosel shots are gone. This week, a personal best at OKC, 86.
Woo.
42 on the front, 44 on the back. Followed that up on a Sunday round early. Went off at 8 a.m. Sunday.
Okay.
Didn't have to wait at all. It was nice. May do it quite often.
And the weather's going to be great this week. It's supposed to be in the upper 80s and low 90s.
Shot 93.
Okay.
Couple of just blow up holes. Had a quad and a triple.
Yeah. That'll do it.
And that's where it did some good things. Driver got away from me on the back nine,
Uh,
but we got it dialed back in the last couple holes. But Ted, I'm just gonna be real with you. I was in the depths of despair with my golf game. Like it almost was affecting my day to day life. Like that's how bad it was.
do you remember what I told you?
Yes. Yes. You
I
said
told you
I was gonna come out on the other side. You told me.
it just means that you're close to a breakthrough. And then you come out and you shoot your personal best.
I want to break 80. That is the goal by year's end. We will see if we can do it. I'm pulling irons, but it's okay. The just horrible left to right ball flight has disappeared. I hit the best 6 iron of my life today. Like flew it 205, carried it 205.
Uh,
Didn't
and
mean
doesn't
to.
it?
It's like my 185 club, but I just hit it so good and I was in bad shape where I hit it, but wasn't even I was just like that's the best 6 iron I've ever hit. I can't be mad.
Yeah, and after a shot like that, it doesn't it always feel like it's the easiest thing you've ever done? It's just like it's supposed to be like that every time. What's the problem here?
This is where I'm at. I've made it through the darkness and we are headed in the right direction.
Hey, you are another bout of yips away from breaking 80.
Damn it, Ted.
I'm just telling you,
Okay. If
incremental gains.
okay. I
Once you shoot like 82, you're going to feel like you're right there. And then there's going to be like, there's going to be another struggle session, right? You know, you're going to look at the scorecard come out of the saying, next time I've got it. And then it's going to dominate your mind and you're going to have some struggle sessions.
okay.
It's going to be bad, but
See,
the
your
breakthrough's coming.
experience you're just you're warning me of the inevitable that's to come. I
So you
appreciate
can
that.
embrace it when it happens.
It's what good friends do, man. All right, my loser of the weekend. USA basketball.
Hey,
Let's start men and women. Let's start with the women. Team
can
USA
we enter
played.
two teams into the tournament?
I
You know, like a team A and a team B.
Yeah. How about? And I actually like what, and the WNBA has done it before, but they've got their WNBA All Stars that play the Olympic team right before the Olympic team goes off and goes and plays in the Olympic. Kind of creates some buzz for the team, for the Olympics. That's what it's designed to do. And Enrique Gubawale apparently took it personally that she did not make the Olympic team. 34 All
Ouch.
Star game record. How about this? All 34 in the second half.
Wow.
Yeah, 21 in the third, 13 in the fourth. Was hitting ridiculous shots. The pride of the Dallas Wings. Let's go, Enrique. But yeah, so you look at the women's team, lost 8 L to the other WNBA All Stars. I don't know if that's the type of buzz they were trying to build.
Yeah, well, you know, there was more focus this year put on the selection of the Olympics team probably in the history of the since they've been doing it, and I you feel like maybe everyone has moved past that, and this brings it right back into focus, right?
Well, the only way it could have gone, it would have been a disaster if it was Caitlin Clark that went off.
Oh, if
Like
she's just like ripping eight or nine threes.
she struggled to shoot the ball. I think she had like 4 points in the game. That would have been complete. Is DEFCON one the really bad one?
I'm not sure. I don't
I
know.
don't know. It goes. I think one's the really bad one. I think that's where it just would have been a complete disaster for the women's Olympic team. But yeah, Wale doing it, not good either because a lot of people feel she got snubbed off the team. So you had that on the women's side. And then on the men's side, they almost lose to South Sudan, who I'm just going to be straight up, Ted. I had seen an article or two about Luol Deng putting the team together. I was like, oh, that seems cool. And then LeBron James has to make a layup with a couple seconds to go to beat him. They had a chance to win the game. Guy just missed.
That's crazy. I didn't see any of it, so I don't know how it all unfolded like that. But how did they get to that point? just
Oh,
played horrible.
South Sudan was up 16 at one point, brother.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, let me tell you, Carlick Jones, I guess he was like the G League player of the year a couple years ago. Nobody could stay in front of that man.
Wow.
15 points, 11 rebounds, 11 assists. Now he did miss the game-winning shot. That it is, but
Hmm.
he was balling. Mario Shayok, a name people may remember. I think he was an Iowa State guy. If my memory serves me correct. He was just burying threes, was like 6 of 12 from three. I mean, South Sudan was balling, don't get me wrong, but it did feel like one of those, maybe this is exactly what Team USA needed before they
Yeah.
go over there. Like it was in London though, so I don't know, man. It was a scary situation.
Well, yeah, I do feel like we've kind of seen some of that previously, and then
Yeah, they've
whenever the
lost they've lost some of these
yeah,
exhibition games before, but South Sudan, let's
yeah,
be real.
that
How many people even knew South Sudan was going to the Olympics? How many people even knew South Sudan had a team?
I didn't even know South Sudan was a country. I just thought it was Sudan.
Fair enough.
So there you go. That's where I'm at with it.
I would I don't know how to put a percentage on it. Let's say 80% of people listen to this unaware of South Sudan. I only know it existed because I read an article about their team a few weeks ago. That's it. I'm just being real.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, hopefully they get it pulled together. I'm confident they will. But too bad. That would have been a huge moment for South Sudan, putting the basketball program on the map.
Shout out to South Sudan because I was sitting watching it and it actually was like exciting and suspenseful. Like they had multiple chances at the buzzer to get shots up and win.
Hmm.
And there's like this scramble underneath the basket. I don't know. It felt like a very meaningful basketball game for some reason. It was an exhibition tune-up for the Olympics in London. It meant nothing, but they made me. I wasn't cheering against my country. Let's not be ridiculous. But I don't know. I was dialed in watching because they played so well and gave such great effort. I don't know. It made it a lot of fun. I did not anticipate caring about this random exhibition game in July, but I found myself captivated by what I was watching.
Yeah, and I have no idea really the state of international basketball, but I do know it's got way more competitive, and I imagine it's not going to be an easy dub for the U.S. Just to,
Maybe it's the worst thing that could have happened to South Sudan
yeah,
because people are going to be ready now.
on everyone's radar.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like hey, we got to be locked in. The South Sudanese are coming. And now they're not sneaking up on anyone because they probably should have won the game.
yeah,
Shout out to LeBron James and Steph Curry. Very good at basketball. Saved us a national embarrassment.
that's good.
Just go win the gold and we'll be all good, boys.
That's
Be
it.
great.
Just win the gold when it matters.
Exactly. Birthday shout outs. Happy 9th birthday to Elijah Mikener.
Happy 11th birthday to Duncan Mikener.
And happy 30th birthday to Ashton Henson. And happy birthday to my brother Sam and to Ashton. Let's go. Happy birthday,
Awesome.
you guys. Love you guys. On that note, episode 441 in the books. We'll have a new podcast that'll drop on Wednesday where quite possibly the most controversial exercise in the history of this podcast will be conducted.
I can't wait.
Do you want me to send you my list of 66 so you can start gathering your thoughts?
Yes.
Okay, I will.
All right.
I
Cool.
will. Just a reminder, please subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Hope you all have a great start to your week. And until next time, we appreciate you all for listening. Do what you always do, Oklahoma. Take care of each other.